Hi everybody, I'm back so soon, but I just have to do some things. We've been talking in the Discord all day about ideas for this cube. Shout out to Artless Bread for a lot of great suggestions, and I want to jump in here and just talk about a little focused package because some of these videos are getting really long and kind of bird walky, and I really want to focus on just a specific thing, and that is the support of Phyrexian Dreadnought. This is a card that I love, and I think you've heard me talk about it in previous videos with regards to the Neoclassical Cube. I think it's literally the coolest card in all of Magic's history, and if you think you got a cooler one, sound off in the comments, but I mean, how can you beat this? It's a 1-mana 12/12 with Trample. It's so cool. The art is sick. I love this card. Anyway, 1-mana 12/12 with Trample. When Phyrexian Dreadnought comes into play, sacrifice any number of creatures of total power 12 or more, or sacrifice Phyrexian Dreadnought. It's got a huge downside. You have to figure out some way to work around. The most obvious way to do this is with Stifle. You cast this and you Stifle its end of the battlefield ability, or you have some permanent in play that gives creatures no abilities or removes ETBs. There's a couple of creatures that do that. There's your dress downs, things like that. Those are the best ways to enable this creature and the most obvious ways to do it. But there's so many other things you can do with Phyrexian Dreadnought, and this is the cube for getting a little jazzy with it. We are not just going to be, stifling Phyrexian Dreadnought. That's not how this is going to work. I want to support this with some style. So let's talk about that. I think I mentioned in the previous video there was almost no support for this right now. Maybe I even said no support. That's not entirely true. There are a couple of things you can currently do with Phyrexian Dreadnought. One of them is Scroll of Fate. This is the card that lets you manifest a card from your hand. You can play any card as your hand face down as a 2/2. You can turn it face up anytime for its mana cost, which is just 1 mana in the case of Phyrexian Dreadnought. Turning it face up does not trigger any ETBs, so you get to skirt all the ETBs and just put it face up. Scroll of Fate is something you can do with this right now in this cube. There's one other thing. What was it? Why can't I remember what it was? There's one other thing you could do with it. What was the other thing you could do with it that I was thinking of? It's currently escaping me now. Was it a sack outlet? Was it... I have to check back in the chat to see. I swear there was one other thing you could do with it. I can't remember what it was. Oh, Mycosynth Gardens. That's the other thing you can do with it right now. This, you can turn Mycosynth Gardens into a copy of Phyrexian Dreadnought with its Enter the Battlefield ability on the stack. So you cast it, trigger, sacrifice it, or sacrifice creatures power 12 or more. You pay 1 mana, tap Mycosynth Gardens, make Mycosynth Gardens a copy of it. So those are 2 ways right now to enable it. We have to add a lot more for this to be a remotely playable card. So the little doo-doo under supported tag on it is currently very appropriate, but we're going to add more support to make it work right now. I've been adding a couple cards to the maybe board to make this work, and let's go ahead and just drop a couple of these in there. The first one is, I mentioned in an early video, I was torn between Lazav the Multifarious and Likeness Looter, both of which work with Phyrexian Dreadnought. If Phyrexian Dreadnought is in the graveyard, they can become a copy of it for X, which is the mana value of the card. I think I like Likeness Looter better. I think it reads better, so that's the one we're going to add. Yeah. So for 1 mana, you can turn this into a copy of Phyrexian Dreadnought. It also bins the Phyrexian Dreadnought itself, though you don't need that because Phyrexian Dreadnought also bins itself. You can just cast it for 1 and then sacrifice it to its own ability. So it just puts itself in the graveyard very easily, but this also gives you other ways to get there. So Likeness Looter is another way to enable Phyrexian Dreadnought. All the ways to enable it are not going to be to put it into play. We're also going to do, I think, a greater good for sure. Sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power, then choose and discard 3 cards. 1 mana to draw 12 and discard 3 is pretty darn good. I was talking about how I wanted more support for Bridge from Below in this cube, so having more free sack outlets is great for Bridge from Below. That will allow you to enable that quite well. Honestly, it's going to be really good with Bridge from Below if you have things in your graveyard that you can get back, like if you have in your deck Bloodghast and Gravecrawler and Prized Amalgam, and you can start to get any kind of sacrifice chain going with Bridge from Below, where you sacrifice a non-token creature, you get a zombie, you sacrifice the zombie, you draw 2, discard 3, you hopefully find some of these cards you can play out of the graveyard that are non-tokens, you can maybe start to go off. So I'm pretty excited about Greater Good. I think that card's going to be pretty interesting here. That one's definitely going in. It's going to be hard for me to remember the cards that I added. Let's actually just do this. Let's pull up the history tab because I added a lot of these to the maybe board this afternoon. So this is maybe a more concise way to go through. It's not the only things I added this afternoon. I've been on a tear thinking about this cube all day. A lot of response time on Cube Cover these days, but it's free. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? This is not related. We're going to come back to Deathmatch Duplicate. I'm going to stay focused for this video, Andy. We are just talking about how to enable Phyrexian Dreadnought specifically. All right, finally. Jesus. Other ways to enable it. Mirage Mirror. This is definitely going to be a Mirage Mirror cube. There's so many weird, funky things you can do with Mirage Mirror because you can turn it into a copy of any permanent? Artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. I guess I don't want you to turn it into a Planeswalker because it would die because it doesn't have any loyalty counters on it. That makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot of funky things you can do with this. I'm excited to see what people get up to, and one of the things you can do with it is pay 2 to turn it into a 12/12 with trample with the sacrifice ability on the stack. Now, that only gives you until end of turn, so it gives you 1 hit with a 12/12, which is very good, obviously, but it's not incredible. These are like, more sort of measured ways to get value off of this card. Another card that I just remembered that I'm really excited to add is Mirror Weave. This can become the world's greatest overrun. So 4 mana, each other creature becomes a copy of target non-legendary creature until end of turn. So you can play the Phyrexian Dreadnought, add instant speed, cast Mirror Weave, targeting the Phyrexian Dreadnought. All of your creatures and your opponent's creatures, so you better control more than them, all become copies of Phyrexian Dreadnought until end of turn, and you then get to bash in and kill your opponent. So 5 mana, turn your whole board into 12/12s of trample is pretty good, I think. And another super weird, funky card. This is exactly the kind of vibes I want here. This like weird hybrid mana card that has weird effects. All about it. Very into that for sure. What else did I add here? Let's see. We added. Okay, so Selvala Heart of the Wilds is one I'm actually not sure about just yet. I am going to add Gerard's Orders to this package. This is one of the great suggestions by Artless Bread. This is a tutor that puts 1 creature into your hand and 1 creature into the graveyard, which is perfect for Dreadnought combos, because a lot of them with like Lateness Looter, you want the Dreadnought in the yard. It's also just a tutor for Dreadnought if you have the other half, and there's a lot of decks that are going to play this card just to put a creature in the graveyard, so I'm really excited about that. I think that's very cool. We talked about, let's see, yeah, these are also unrelated things I'm adding here. I'm adding a couple different things all at once, so we got that. This is the interesting Kozilek. I turned up 9 mana for a 9/9 that when you cast a spell, up to 2 target players each manifest 2 cards from their hands. It's worded for multiplayer, like you're never going to let your opponent do that, so you're just not going to target them. So you target yourself, you get to make 2 cards in your hand into face-down creatures that are manifested, and then other colorless creatures you control get +3/+2, so they're actually 5/4s, along with any other colorless creatures you have. I really wish there were more cards that let you manifest from your hand, but unfortunately there just aren't. So we're at Scroll of Fate, which is the one we're on. That one's going to be really good. This card also does it, but is 9 mana, 9/9. I don't think it's really what we're looking for here, but it's cool. Selvala is an interesting one. Other cards we could possibly add for this would be like a Fling. I'm going to add a Fling to the maybe board. You can sacrifice the Phyrexian Dreadnought to deal 12 damage to your opponent with the trigger on the stack. I got hit by this in the Neoclassical Cube. This is a combo of the Neoclassical Cube, and it has proved quite good. So right now, if we were to run it as is, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the 2 that are already in the cube, the Mycosynth Gardens and the... why is it escaping me? The Scroll of Fate as ways to get some value off of Phyrexian Dreadnought. So that's only 6 total ways in the whole cube to get some value. I think we still need some more. So let's see, what does Selvala do for us? Selvala's a pretty good, like, self-contained little card. We need more green creatures, to be perfectly honest. We need more creatures in this cube in general, and we haven't really gotten around to, like, balancing those specific details yet, but we need more green creatures. And so I'm inclined to add Selvala and just basically turn Phyrexian Dreadnought into a huge cantripping ritual. You basically get to make 11 mana and draw a card because nothing in play has more power than that. So let's move Selvala to the main board. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know about a Fling. Do I like a Fling here? What else is Fling doing in this cube? What are the big creatures you could potentially fling? You could fling a big Terravore. You could fling your Metalwork Colossus and then get it back and fling your Metalwork Colossus again, or, just attack with it again. I don't really think this is currently a fling cube. Other things we could include would be like Pandemonium. I'll put that in the maybe board as well. That's another combination or combo card with... Here's what we're going to do, actually. We're doing this live. Let's also hop over to EDH Rec, which currently has a combo list. Actually, is it /combos? What is the... Yeah, it is /combos. So I think if I go over here and do /combos and say... All right, what do they list here? 1 combo to draw the game with Leyline of Singularity and Ratadrabic of Urborg. All right, well, that's not what we want. Let's go to the Commander Spellbook. Is that the thing that has the combos in it? I basically want lists of cards that interact in a good way with Phyrexian Dreadnought. See if we can come up with some more spicy ways to get some value off of it. Okay, here's some other things. There's a lot of... So many. It's only 11 results. So really, these are only things that basically go infinite in some way. That's what counts as a combo. Like putting a 12/12 into play does not count as a combo for these things, which I guess makes sense. So that's not going to be a source of more ways to get value off of this. I said we weren't going to do the Stifle thing, and I still really don't want to, but I wonder about a Dress Down. Dress Down seems like it will have applications. So we already talked about a couple of these other cards. Just Violent Tumor is a card I'm going to definitely find room for in a different update because I want to. Yeah. Okay. Thinking. I don't want to add Pandemonium or Fling, I don't think. I think they're just like a little too aggro and not creative enough. What else could we possibly add? There's like a green instant that is kind of like a one-shot. It's like fall type instant, color equals green. Momentous Fall, that's what it is. Yeah, so for 5, you would draw 12 and gain 12. Is Momentous Fall more interesting? What are you going to Momentous Fall here? I said I wanted more sacrifice outlets. It's only a one-shot sacrificer. It's not going to do a lot of other things. What else are you going to Momentous Fall here? I'm not sure, to be honest. Okay, this brings up the question of, do we want both Lazav and Likeness Looter? Enters the battlefield, surveil 1 for a 1/3, and then you can make it a copy of a creature in your graveyard with mana value X. Oh, I'm sorry, we already have Volrath's Shapeshifter in here too. That's another way to do this. Yeah, okay. So now we're at 7 things to do with Phyrexian Dreadnought, and we're going to talk a little bit about the redundancy for Phyrexian Dreadnought in a second, because there's a couple of the cards I want to include, one of which is already in here, Eater of Days. I'm going to be taking this tag off in this update. That should be the whole point, is not to support these cards anymore. Everything that works with Phyrexian Dreadnought also works with Eater of Days, although a lot of them become very expensive mana-wise, because Dreadnought only costs 1, which is one of the things that makes it good. Eater of Days costs 4, so to combine it with, something like Mirror Weave. Actually, that's not even that good, because you're still going to lose your next 2 turns. But you get to make everything a 9/8 trample with flying, right? Is that what it is? 9/8 trample with flying? Where is it? Eater of Days. Yeah, 9/8 flying trample. That card has to be played here. It's too much what I want to do. Yes, we also have Volrath Shapeshifter. Are there other things I'm missing that are combos with this card? I don't think. So that's 3 plus we're adding 4, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's talk about the cards we could add that would be better supports for it, and let's talk through what we think about them. What is the creatures? Hushwing Gryff is the one I can think of. Let's look at Hushwing Gryff. Yeah. So that rules text is not going to hit everything, because there's also Doorkeeper Thrall is one. Doorkeeper Thor, Hushbringer, Hushwing Griff, Torpor Orb. These are all, I mean, all of these could potentially enable a Dreadnought. Are any of these interesting to me? This brings up the question of like, what is White's identity in this cube going to be? Because right now I think that is the color that is lacking the most identity. The closest thing it has to identity right now is the Astral Slide deck or eggs. And I love eggs. I want eggs to be one of the identities of White, but probably not the entire identity. And mostly our White creatures have almost no identity. I mean, we have these 3 cards here that work in like the eggs deck: Fiddlebender, RX Salvador's Tashar. Then we just have a random cycler and a random land tutor. The Wayther Wayfarer is probably not even good. I don't know. I have to play with it a little bit to get a sense for it. The question is, do we want to have like kind of a hate bearsy deck in White that could also then sidestep into using these cards to enable things like Eater of Days and Phyrexian Dreadnought? Maybe we do. Of these ones, I think the one that fits the vibe most is Hushbringer because it's so weird. I want this cube to be weird. That is definitely the weirdest one. What if we do all prints? Let's see what different printings of these cards exist. I do also like Hushwing Griff. It's like the worst version of this because it's 3 mana compared to the 2 mana Doorkeeper Thrall. And then Torpor Orb definitely fits the vibes, the weird artifact vibes. And I like that it's colorless. It's a colorless sideboard card that a lot of decks could potentially play. What else is Torpor Orb doing in our list currently? It would not affect any of these cards. It would stifle Emery's ability, which is very little. It would stifle... Yeah, there's not that many end of the battlefield abilities in this entire cube right now. Okay, so Goblin Engineer, Rix Matty Reveler, Scrapwork Mutt. Geez, yeah, there's just very few end of the battlefield abilities. Huh. Which really makes it not even a hate piece at all. Look, you're turning off so little right now. And it might change in the future, but there's just very few things that it's actually going to affect in any way. Okay, so these are options, but I'm going to add them to the maybe board for now. I'm just going to add the 2 that I like the most, or the 3 I like the most. Hushwing Griff, Hushbringer, and Torpor Orb. These are the ones that fit the vibes for me. But right now, they would not actually be effective hate cards at all for what's going on in this cube. So that is something to note. What kind of white creatures interact with the graveyard? Type, creature, color identity equals white. O, graveyard, O, exile. What we got? And also game paper. And just turn on cards, not all prints. All right. Angel of Finality is really strong grave hate. Exile zombie control human cards to give rid of the battlefield. It's kind of interesting. This could be a card we could potentially play here. The protection I don't mind in this cube because this cube is weird, and that's a more reasonable sort of rate for repeated grave hate compared to like we're not going to play, for example, Lion Sash. That's way too good here. Let's see what else. Yeah, none of these things really... Like, there's some fine playable... You know what? I saw a card I definitely want to play here. What's the one white angel that says opponents can't sacrifice things to pay costs? Angel of Purification. All right, type angel, mana value equals 4, cost includes white. Am I doing this right? Is W cost? No, W's color. Okay, I did that search wrong, but it's Angel of Jubilation. Players can't pay life for sacrifice creatures to cast spells or activate abilities. That's a very cool hate piece here. And I wanted cards that were also higher devotion. So that's going to go on the maybe board. I'm losing focus, but this is what happens. I said you'd be along for the cube design process. Do I have to like put this in quotes to make this work? Oh, this just isn't even doing anything. That's why this isn't working. Someone will tell me in the comments how to do that. I don't actually care right now because I managed to find what I was looking for anyway. Anyway, there's also Linvala, which is activated abilities. That is a decent hate piece here as well. Again, we're getting distracted, but that's the cube design process. There's a lot of activated abilities that are quite strong. Unfortunately, this doesn't affect cards in hand, even if they're creature cards, because creature is not a card in hand. It's a permanent in the battlefield, because that would be cool if it sort of stopped cycling. I'm going to put that in maybe board right now, too. Keeper of Silence is the one, right? Yeah. That's a potentially cool hate piece as well, which I just incidentally found by looking at 4-mana Angels. Anyway. Where's my list of cards that care about the graveyard? Well, that's what I was looking at. Yeah, okay, hold on. I'm also going to put that Protection for Black. Yeah, Apostle Purifying Light is also going to maybe board. I do often find that white's role in a lot of cubes can be to kind of be the police. Like Martyr War Reaper is fine. There's a lot of cards like Martyr War Reaper that exile a single card from a graveyard once, which could be fine. I really want a more expensive, repeatable version. Lion Sash is too good. Apostle Purifying Light is the right balance. I don't know how I feel about Pro Black here yet. It's not like a non-starter, which it would be for me in a lot of other places. Like Remorseful Cleric, too good of a rate, I think. There's a lot of decks that are just going to get hosed by that so hard. Samurai of the Pale Curtain is at least cool and symmetrical and doesn't hit things that are already in the graveyard. And it has Bushido. I'm going to put Samurai of the Pale Curtain in the maybe board as well. Selfless Exorcist is a pretty bad grave hate card. Tap to exile one creature card from a graveyard, and it punches Selfless Exorcist for 5-mana 3/4. It's pretty rough. Pretty rough. Sun Gold Sentinel, too good. Stonecloaker is actually probably the right vibes here. It's weird. Was that originally a Time Spiral card? Yeah, Planar Chaos. Yeah, Stonecloaker is the right vibes here. Actually, I like that card a lot. And again, I'm getting a little distracted, but we started down this road because we were looking at the white hate bearer creatures that would also enable Dreadnought, and none of these are that anymore, but it's worth looking at. Okay. Cool. Fine. Back to this question. I think I'm going to try this amount of support for now, and we're just going to have to do some test drafts and see how it feels. I am adding one more card, though. I mentioned that I have Eater of Days in here, which works with a lot of the same things as Phyrexian Dreadnought and is perfect on vibes. There's one other card that works with a lot of the same things as Phyrexian Dreadnought that is perfect on vibes that I forgot about until now, which is Leveler. 5 mana for a 10/10, comes into play, remove your library from the game. Sick. Love it. 5 mana 10/10 should be good here. Removing your library from the game is bad. Now, there's a couple of ways you can also do other things with this. I do have Labman in this cube, and so that's a way to enable Labman, which I think is very cool. I'm all about that. That adds to the list of like Hermit Druid is a way to enable Labman. So is that. You can also get pretty close to milling yourself out with Oath of Druids with Labman, though it'd be hard to actually build a deck that really truly enabled that completely. So now you can do that with Leveler. You can also with Leveler, cast it and exile your library, and then, if you have something like Gaia's Blessing in hand, you can just put 3 of your best cards into your deck, and hopefully with a Leveler and then 3 of your best cards from your graveyard, you can win the game. I think that's kind of a cool line as well. I'm considering adding Memory's Journey to this cube, which is going to be in the gold section, or is it going to be in the? Yeah, it is in the gold section. Yeah, target player shovels 3-card target from the graveyard. This and Guy's Blessing both also act as sort of soft grave hate, the kind of grave hate I like in this environment, where it's like, you got to spend a card on it, and it also puts it back in your opponent's deck. It doesn't just exile them. Like, I think that's a cool balance. So yeah, I'm kind of into that. Okay, but again, we're staying focused right now on just these things. So you have Likeness Looter, Greater Good, Mirage Mirror, Mirror Weave, Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, Mycosynth Gardens, and Volrath Shapeshifter, and the Scroll of Fate. Now, not all these work with all of the targets. Like, for example, you can't really Mirror Weave, or like Mirror Weave doesn't really do what you want with Eater of Days because you've already missed 2 turns probably, unless you got to 8 mana. Similarly, you can get one in play with a whatchamacallit. Excuse me. You can make a copy of one with Mycosynth Gardens, but you still had to put the first one in play, so you still lost your next 2 turns. Now maybe, and that requires tapping the Mycosynth Garden, so that really is not a combo so much with Eater of Days. But I think there's other things to do with Leveler, and the idea of having like Leveler and Eater of Days and Phyrexian Dreadnought in your deck, and then really prioritizing ways to break parity on them, like that really makes me want to make room for like it'd be so cool if you could have a white deck that was mostly hate bears, but then all 3 of those creatures in it, along with like 2 Hushbringer effects. Like, that's so cool. But right now they're just not effective hate cards in the rest of the cube. So maybe the rest of the cube has to change more for that to make sense. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna add those 9 cards for now, which is actually only 7 cards, right? Because this math again is very weird. It says +9, even though 2 are just being edited. So we added 7 cards. We gotta cut 7 cards, which should not be that hard. Weather Wayfarer, for example, I think is not doing a whole lot for me right now. I'm going to put it back in the maybe board. Other cards to cut. I don't really want to cut things from white, only because there's so few white cards right now. I don't care that much about or about color balance, but especially in these early days when we're just like testing a bunch of stuff, I want to I'm going to cut Phyrexian Negator for now as well. I think Phyrexian Obliterator is the right one for this cube, and probably not Phyrexian Negator. So cut that one for now. We like Shadow of the Grave. We like our flexible removal spells. We like Unearth. We like all of these. I do wonder if Nihilistic Glee is getting there anymore. I mean, it's such a cool card. I think either Call the Bloodlight or Nihilistic Glee probably should go. They both combo with Deathless Knight in that they allow you to gain life, which means you could turn Deathless Knight to your hand, and they both have discard outlets. So they both combo in the sense they're like a slow value engine with Deathless Knight. Nihilistically is also very cool if you get Hellbent, which is very cool with things like Zombie Infestation, where you discard arbitrary amounts of cards, because then you can just pay 1 and 2 life to draw a card, so you can activate that 8 times and lose 16 life and draw 8 cards, which is very cool. I like the cycling removal spells. What else can we cut? I think we can probably cut some stuff from the gold. Like Street Wraith, for example. Like, is this card actually interesting? It's just got free cycling. I kind of think it's not actually that interesting. Like, it's plays into the shtick of the cube in that it's a colorless card that looks like it has color, and cycling is a bit of a theme here, but it doesn't actually add anything interesting, I think, any texture. We do have a decent bout of Grave Hate in here just by, trying to fit some in initially, so maybe you should not be worried about adding more Grave Hate right now. What else is not doing it for me? Am I just going to cut this Kozilek? It feels really out of place right now. But it's like the card I want to Oath into. Like, it makes Oath of Druids into a deck, where otherwise I don't think it would be at this point. We got down here. Anything worth cutting? Creating your archive also works with Leveler. You get your whole graveyard back, which isn't as selective, but, you know. Oh, you know, Panoptic Mirror. This is a card that has really not been happy. I've not been happy with this. It feels so hard to get your off-color instants and sorceries in your hand along with your Panoptic Mirror. I also kind of feel like Spinavish Saw is not currently doing a whole lot because there's no way to, like, cheat mana costs or anything. There's Welder, but Welder specifically does not work with Spinavish Saw because it goes back to your hand. It doesn't go to the graveyard, so you can't. You can weld it in once, but then every subsequent time you just have to keep recasting it. Okay, those are the cuts for now. Relatively, you saw the sort of thought process. 362 total. Why is it still -7? Oh, it's only 5. Why say it says -7 even though it's only -5? So weird that it includes the edits as both an add and a subtract. All right, I could make 2 more cuts. Let's think here. I just added it recently, but Rude Awakening is still not doing anything here. It wasn't doing anything when I added it, and it's still not, it turns out. I do wonder if Survival of the Fittest is going to be too good, and if Fauna Shaman is just the right place for that effect. Jolrael is not really doing anything right now other than just being cool. I think I need to be a little more choosy about my top end and make sure that they're like doing cool stuff. And not just, like, Collected Company is currently undersupported, but could be cool. I'm going to put the maybe board for now. We can always come back to it. All right. There we go. Back down to 360. And thus is the tale of supporting Phyrexian Dreadnought and friends with style instead of just jamming Stifles in. I do think that's going to be playable. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and mark all these cards right now as keepers because I love them. That's a keeper, and Eater of Days is a keeper. And what I'm looking for in the future is more ways to get cards that just, like, I guess if you have Scroll of Fate and Volrath's Shapeshifter and, like, one other thing, like even just a Ret 2 Mystic so you can at least, like, cycle through these cards when they're bad for you. Like, if you have those cards, maybe that's enough to make those cards good and playable. I guess Clone Shell becomes a copy. No, but you put on the battlefield, never mind. That would trigger all the ETBs. Yeah, like give me Likeness Looter, Volrath Shapeshifter, and Scroll of Fate. And I think I'd take those other cards pretty highly. Because again, we have a lot of discard outlets here. Like this is the whole point of this like whole shtick. Because people are forced to play bad cards in their deck, because I'm only letting them make 5 cuts, I can also... My hair's crazy again? Oh, no. We can also force them to play bad cards that are bad because they're interesting and not bad just because they're low rate. And so there will be things to do with those cards. Like, there's so many ways in this cube to, like, do stuff with cards you can't play that it's okay to have them in your deck, even if they're pretty risky. All right. That's this little video on just this package. It was still a half hour? Oh my God. This is terrible. Thank you for tuning in. Next time, we're going to talk about the Keyword Ability Soup package, which is the next thing I'm going to bolster a little bit. The Chromanticore package, which I have some ideas about. Anyway, thanks for tuning in.